Hi there, this is Kai here back with my first ever Millennium Duels deck recipe. I'm pretty much going to start with one of the more broken, well not broken, but one of the top tier decks in this game that you can probably create in this game. There's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of new decks you can create with the XYZ monsters, but this is probably one of the crazy and more complicated and difficult ones to even get your head around, even if you have all the cards. There's so many plays you can do with this deck that I don't know, it's an amazing deck, but I would say it's almost like the new Light Sworns and 5Ds. But I'm going to go through this deck and tell you what I know about the deck, and this is my build for Mermails. Anyway, I'm going to start with the Mermail cards. Mermail Abyssgunde or whatever. Right, I'm going to pronounce these wrong. I'm going to pronounce them how I want to pronounce them, but you get the point. The deck recipe is on the description below, so you can just copy the deck recipe if you want instead of watching this. Anyway, the main point in these guys are when they're discarded from the graveyard or special summoned, then they return or have an effect of some kind. In this one, if this card is discarded to the graveyard for any means necessary from the deck, from your hand, from the field, you can target one Mermail monster in your graveyard except this card and special summon that target. But you can only use that effect once per turn. So you got 3 of these, but these will be recycling the cards for your graveyard. Then you have the level 7 Mermail. I want to be called, I really want to call him Abysslede, but Abyssleed. Basically, you can discard 3 water cards from your hand, and then special summon this monster. When you do, you can target one Abyss spell or trap card in your graveyard and add that to your hand. You can tribute one Mermail monster and send one random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn. You never really ever need to discard 3 monsters from your hand. I don't see why you ever would. The next card I'm going to tell you about is basically able to summon that right away, so you never really need to use that as effect. However, just keep in mind that he's a level 7 for the level 7 exceeds. You got pretty much the heart of the deck is Mermail Abyssleed. What do I call them? Ass. Anyway, Abysslinde, or whatever she's called. Basically, when this is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Mermail monster from your deck, and it can be any card, regardless of level, and you can only use that as effect once per turn. So that's what those cards do. Those cards will get any and every card into your like on the field, pretty much. And then you have Mermail Abysmegalo. You can discard two of the water monsters and special summon this card from your hand, and when you do, you can add one abyss or spell trap card from your deck to your hand, which I'll get onto later. You never really need to use that as effect either, but keep in mind it's level 7 for level 7 exceeds. You can tribute one other face-up attack water monster on the field, and it gets to attack twice, so for a 2400 beater. That's what those cards do. Mermail Abysspike. When this is normal summoned or special summoned, you can discard one water monster to the graveyard to add one level 3 monster from your deck to your hand. So that can get that can get her out. You can get any other level 3 Mermail monster, level 3 water monster into your hand. Again, it can only be used once per turn. You have 3 of these cards to use. Again, because these can pretty much get your get her out on the field, like get her into your hand, so that you can keep kind of recycling for your deck without having to actually draw the cards. And as you might know, this deck runs really fast. You can summon this guy, discard her to special summon a target. Say special summon that person. That person comes on the field, so therefore you've got 2 monsters on the field, and then this person's effect will activate, and then you can add another card to your hand. So that is such a crazy play, such a mad play. You get an extra card in the field, you get an extra card in your hand. Just so many effects you can get off with these cards. Then I'll get into magics and traps later. So you got 3 of them. You can discard another water monster card, so just one more water monster card special summon this. You can add one level 4 or lower mermail monster from your deck to your hand. If you do that, again it's level 7. As you can probably tell already, there's a lot of these level 7s. They'll be able to really easily special summon level 7 exceed monsters, so that's really good. Just keep in mind that most of these cards will get effects when they're discarded by a water monster's effect. You're discarding a lot, you're recycling for your deck a lot. It keeps Mermail can play for days pretty much. Like they're just so good. As I'll show you in an example duel. Mermail Abysturge. Basically, when this is the same as Abysspike, which I'm just gonna call him. Fuck it, I'm just gonna call him Abysspike. You can discard one water monster to the graveyard and then target one level 3 or lower monster in your graveyard instead of your deck, and then add that to your hand. So it's pretty much the same as Abysspike, but you are getting them back from the graveyard. And then the non-Mermail monsters are Atlantean Dragoons. Basically, all level 3 sea serpent monsters you can control can attack directly. That's not really the effect that you're going to be really getting off. I mean, you might get off at one point, but it's not really the important thing. The main thing is this: when this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, add one sea serpent type monster from your deck to your hand. So that's these 3 cards that I'm about to show you. Atlantean Heavy Infantry. Once you're not really going to get his main phase that much, to be honest. You can normal summon another one of these, get like a sea serpent monster if you wish. But the main effect is when this card is sent to the graveyard, in any way means through your deck or your hand or the field, to activate a water monster's effect, target one face-up card your opponent controls and destroy that target immediately. And the next 2 cards are the same as Heavy Infantry, however they target face-down cards, like traps or face-down defense monsters. So, as I was explaining to do with the other cards, you can continuously discard like these cards if you get them in your hand to activate a Mermail's effect, or even the ones that tribute a water monster on the field. If you did that, then it would, like, your Mermail would get the effect that it gets for doing that, and you'd also get the effect of these infantry or marksmen. You'd get those effects off. And the other card that's not a Mermail card is the Tidal Dragon Ruler of the Waterfalls. For anyone that doesn't know what you can do, these cards, there's loads of them for different attributes, but we're only using this one because this is a water-based deck. If you want, you can banish a total of 2 monsters and or dragon monsters from your hand or graveyard, except this card, to special summon this card. So if this card's in the graveyard, or if it's in your hand, you can banish cards from your hand or in the graveyard to special summon it. However, it only lasts for 1 turn, so when it's your turn again, it goes back to your hand regardless. Or you can have its secondary effect, which is you can discard this card and 1 water monster card to the graveyard to send one monster from your deck to your graveyard. If this card is banished, you can add 1 water dragon type monster from your deck to your hand, so you could add another one back to your hand if you wanted to. However, the main purpose of this deck is basically you can discard any of the, say for example you activate the second effect, you discard this card, you discard say this card, and then you send another one of these cards to the graveyard, and you'd be able to special summon 2 of the Abyss Mermail monsters from the graveyard to the field if you wanted to. Another reason why to have these is that they're level 7s as well, so for the level 7 exceeds. I'm going to quickly, that's it for the monsters. Hopefully I kind of explained that properly, but as I said, this deck is really complicated to do with getting used to it, but I'll go on for the traps now. Abyss Sphere, basically you can special summon 1 Mermail monster from your deck, its effects are negated. You cannot activate any spell cards. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. Destroy this card during your opponent's next end phase after activation. So, say for example, you put this card in the field, it's their turn, you want to get a monster out in the field, or they're gonna attack you, or they activate Mystical Space Typhoon. You activate this, you summon Abyssleed. This card will get destroyed, that card will get destroyed, and then you'll special summon another Mermail monster from your deck to the field. So that keeps field presence there. So you got 3 of these. That's the Mermail trap cards that other card explained earlier on. Reckless Greed, I run 3 Reckless Greeds. The main point in that, you might be thinking, why would you do that? Because it's got the draw power is like, well, you won't have any 2 draw phases. However, but as I mentioned, when this deck will run its deck without draw power. Like, really, it mills through your deck, and it's in one turn you can pretty much go through most of the cards in your deck, and then we keep recycling. And it's pretty intense, so it's basically you want to get your combos going as fast as possible, and you want to make this deck run as fast as possible to trounce over your opponent. So that's why I run these 3 Reckless Greeds, is to get more cards for the combos. Sixth Sense is such a great card. Declare 2 numbers from 1 to 6, roll a dice, and if the result is one of those numbers you declared, you can draw that many cards. Normally I'd put 5 or 6, so if the dice roll does do 5 or 6, I draw 5 or 6 cards. Otherwise, you send that number of cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard, which in Mermails you're going to be running cards from your graveyard anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Solemn Warning is basically Solemn Judgment. However, it's just for a spell, trap, or monster effect. That's about it. This includes the effect of a special summon. Solemn Judgment is completely bad, otherwise, like, banned. So Solemn Warning is pretty much its replacement. Torrential Tribute, and that's about it for the traps. I'll quickly go through the spells because they're not all that important. Book of Moon, you should know what that does. Dark Hole, thank God that's in this game. Destroy all monsters on the field. 2 Mystical Space Typhoons to get rid of back row. Salvage to target 2 water monsters with 1500 attack or less attack, which is a lot of these monsters. Upstart Goblin for the crazy draw power, as I said, that this deck runs. You pretty much want to get all the combo pieces into your hand right away, and it's a super fast deck, so it doesn't really matter about giving them life points, because you're going to be taking all of them off them anyway. So you got 3 of those. That puts up to 40 cards. I know this is a very long video, but it does need a very long video. I think the the new decks will be a lot longer in explanation. I'm going to get onto the Exceeds, and I'm going to briefly explain what they do and why I use them. Abyssdweller. Basically, the point in this card is you summon it and you detach an XYZ monster. Any card effects that activate your opponent's graveyard cannot be activated that turn. So that's useful against Mermails, it's useful against Stars Dark Dragon Assault Mode, it's useful against a whole bunch of different cards that activate from the graveyard. Bahamut Shark. Good combo is when you get the 2 level 4 monsters out of the field. For loads of means necessary, you can detach one of these and special summon a level 3 or lower water XYZ, which you will be summoning the Mermail Abysstrite, Spirit, or whatever, Strike, or whatever, I don't know, I can't even pronounce this. During either place turn, when an opponent targets exactly 1 Mermail monster you control, for an attack or with a spell and trap effect, you can that targets this card, except you can attach 1 XYZ. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Mermail monster in your graveyard and special summon it. That's pretty much the point in this. The first effect doesn't really matter that much. But if you get 2 level 4s and then you get Bahamut Shark, and then get this card out, and if this card gets destroyed, you get another Mermail card. So the play on that is pretty crazy itself. I got this guy because I just shuffle stuff into my deck and then draw again if I need to. Diamond Direwolf, basically you tribute this guy and you tribute your own card in the field to destroy it. It can be helpful in many situations. Gagaga Cowboy. Basically you depending on its attack position, this gains a 1000 attack, and then your opponent's monster loses 500 attack, or you can kill him like Darkstrike Fighter used to do, and inflict 800 damage to your opponent, which surprisingly does actually come in useful. I've won a game with this guy a few times. This guy is basically, he hits through the defense position. It's got piercing. This guy is crazy. Level 7, basically when he's summoned, you summon 2 tokens, and while you control this card, you can tribute 1 of those tokens, to destroy a monster in the field, and you can detach 2 XYZ materials to basically get 4 tokens to destroy stuff, as long as this doesn't get killed, you know. They can't attack it after it's activated as effect, however. 2 level 3s, you can attach 1 XYZ material monster to target 1 face-up attack monster on you control. Change defense position. If you do, it cannot be destroyed by battle, so this is to save your monsters. And this guy is, when this card's face-up on the field, basically, you will be able to summon him because your level 7s are water monsters. Once per turn during any player's turn, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card and negate all the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls that have less attack than this card until the end turn. So that can stop your opponent banging his tracks there. As I said, Mermail, I've already explained their usefulness. Big guy, basically you detach 1 material monster and he takes control of your opponent's monster forever, just like Goyo Guardian did. However, this card can attack the turn that you do that. Master of Blades, last card. During either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated and targets this face-up card, you can detach 1 XYZ material from that card and negate the activation. If you do destroy a card, then you can destroy 1 card on the field. My advice, the extra deck doesn't really matter to be honest, but my advice is build this deck if you're interested in starting off with Mermails and getting a good Mermail deck, and play some single player to make sure that you know what the effects do, and because this deck will take a good few duels to be able to know what you're doing. I've kind of quickly run through it and it's taken me 16 minutes, but there is so much play that you can do. But the build, I know that there's a lot more Mermail cards that you can get in this game, but however I feel that this is the fastest and the most effective and has the most draw power to overwhelm your opponent very quickly. So they need to have a top tier deck to kind of compete with this deck. There's no doubt about that. Let me know what you think, if you have any suggestions or anything like that. I've been Kai and I'll be posting up some more Millennium Duel deck recipes. Sorry about my pronunciation. Can't speak today. Pronunciations on cards. Sometimes that's just the way I get to know cards. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope that if you do create this deck, that it does bring you many more victories in the future.